Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know, first, harvest now, decrypt later data theft triggers a quantum arms race as the US and UK rush to counter the threat before Q-Day arrives. This discussion will reveal how this strategy connects to the quantum computing arms race and what it means for the future of data security. Second, King Charles delivers a personal AI warning to Nvidia's CEO, highlighting a major clash between European caution and a US push for unchecked innovation. We'll analyse why this royal intervention is a turning point and how it could affect the competitive dynamics between advocates for AI safety and those pushing for speed. Third, after raising $1.1 billion to Chinese A, V giants see their Hong Kong IPOs crash as a US ban on their tech signals, a major industry decoupling. We'll examine how this market crash and the US regulatory wall may impact innovation cycles and product roadmaps for the entire autonomous vehicle industry. Fourth, Snap's $400 million deal with Perplexity signals a major pivot to an AI app store model as user growth stalls in key Western markets. So we'll discuss why this strategic pivot matters and what it means for the future of AI monetization as regulatory pressures mount on social platforms. Fifth, Elon Musk's Grok AI sparks a crisis by defaming a UK official, creating a major test case for AI liability and regulation in Europe. In this episode, we'll break down this critical incident and what it signals for platform accountability and the urgent need for AI safety regulations. Nations are stealing encrypted data right now with a chilling strategy. Harvest now, decrypt later. Cybersecurity expert Alan Woodward says they are stockpiling secrets, waiting for the day a new form of superpower can unlock everything. So the thing is, with this harvest now, decrypt later strategy, adversaries are targeting data that has a very long shelf life. We're talking about things like state secrets, intellectual property for new technologies, and even your own biometric data. That information will still be valuable, still be sensitive 10 or 20 years from now when the technology to break today's encryption finally arrives. That day is called Q-Day, and the threat is so high that a former head of cryptographic design at GCHQ, the UK's cyber agency, stated it was credible that almost all UK citizens will have had data compromised in state-sponsored attacks, with that data now just waiting to be cracked open. And it's become an incredibly high-stakes race. The threat is so real that governments are already in a full-blown defensive sprint. For example, the US National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, has already released the first finalized standards for what's called post-quantum cryptography. They're trying to roll out new, stronger forms of encryption that can resist a quantum attack times before Q-Day even gets here. The technology they're waiting for is quantum computing. And while you've heard all about AI, the head of the firm Quantinuum, recently valued at $10 billion, says quantum is as big, if not bigger than AI. To understand the scale, Google recently unveiled a quantum chip it claimed could solve a problem in 5 minutes that would take the world's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years to complete. That's a 10 with 24 zeros after it. One of the UK's top quantum experts put it another way. Things that could take the age of the universe to calculate could be performed in seconds. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. This incredible power is creating something experts are calling a quantum divide. Because these machines are so expensive and complex, access will likely be controlled by a few tech giants and governments. Think of a quantum cloud where companies like Amazon and Microsoft provide access, but only to those who can afford it. This raises huge questions about who gets to use this power and who gets left behind. This power could be used to create personalized medication or a quantum compass that works anywhere, even underground where GPS fails. But the race to build these machines, which can require synthetic diamonds from jewelers like De Beers to operate, is all about the data. The mention of diamonds is crucial. It shows the race for quantum supremacy isn't just about software. It's a new geopolitical game for a handful of exotic materials. Control over the supply chain for things like the synthetic diamonds made by De Beers' subsidiary, Element 6, or the ultra-rare helium-3 gas needed for cooling could become a new lever of global power, just like we see today with semiconductors or oil. And speaking of what these machines require, let's talk about the energy. To work, many quantum computers need to be kept near absolute zero, colder than deep space. The dilution refrigerators that do this are incredibly power hungry, with a single machine consuming up to 50 kilowatts of power, mostly just for cooling. As we scale this technology, its energy demand could become a massive sustainability challenge. Companies like Apple and Signal are already rolling out what they believe to be post-quantum encryption keys to defend against the threat, but that defense cannot be applied to information that has already been stolen. The former intelligence official's warning stands. The data is already out there, stockpiled by nations, waiting for the quantum key to turn the lock. From one revolutionary technology to another, the people at the very top are starting to weigh in, and not always in the way you'd expect. The most unexpected news in the tech world today has to be this. The CEO of the world's most valuable company just received a personal, hand-delivered warning from King Charles III. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang was at an awards ceremony when the king pulled him aside. Huang told the BBC, he said, "There's something I want to talk to you about." And he handed me a letter. That letter was a copy of the king's own 2023 speech, a stark warning about the dangers of artificial intelligence. A while back, we talked about this same awards stage honouring AI's architects, including Huang, while revealing how divided the field's creators are. Interestingly enough, the king used that very platform to deliver his warning straight to the person building the engines of this revolution. In it, the monarch said the risks of AI must be tackled with a sense of urgency, unity, and collective strength, describing the technology's development as no less important than the discovery of electricity. The king's message was a reminder that this technology could be used for good and for evil. Now, the king's letter is a perfect example of what experts call soft power, using moral persuasion and influence rather than legally binding rules. The situation presents a fascinating duality. On one side, you have the king's moral persuasion, while on the other, the European Union has passed its AI Act, which comes with strict enforceable regulations and fines up to 35 million euros for companies that don't comply. And as we've discussed before, soft power can move fast in the rooms where the most influential people are already listening. And this warning was delivered directly to the man at the epicenter of it all. Jensen Huang's company, Nvidia, is the $3 trillion giant whose advanced computer chips are the engine powering this entire AI revolution. Huang himself said the king obviously cares very deeply about AI safety. We previously warned about the risk of a compute oligopoly, where a handful of companies become single points of failure, so a royal nudge at the very top of that stack isn't just symbolic, it's targeted. This puts Jensen Huang in a true kingmaker's dilemma. Nvidia's entire business model is built on selling more and more powerful chips to fuel the AI boom. So there's a fundamental conflict between that goal and the calls for a slower, more cautious approach. To navigate this, Nvidia isn't just sitting back. The company has actually joined a US government consortium to help develop standards for trustworthy AI, and even launched its own AI Trust Center to focus on building safety directly into its technology. They are trying to be both the engine and the brakes, but while the king is urging caution, a powerful countercurrent is pushing for speed at all costs. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. The US Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, has actively discouraged using the word safety at all, stating, "It makes us sound like we're afraid." At the same time, Donald Trump has urged the AI sector to make rapid, not cautious, advances in the technology. This isn't just a turn of phrase, it's a global war over the word safety. Believe it or not, the recent International AI Summit was literally rebranded from the AI Safety Summit to the AI Action Summit. This signals a major shift pushed by countries that want to prioritize economic growth and innovation over discussions of long-term risk. It's a deliberate effort to change the conversation from how do we prevent danger to how do we move faster. And remember, we've also highlighted the middle lane here, Fei-Fei Li's call for a science-based pragmatic approach that cuts through the extremes. This isn't just a difference of opinion, it's a global tug of war over the future. We're seeing world leaders and even foundational figures of AI, like Geoffrey Hinton, warning of an existential threat, while at the same time, a powerful push to innovate without hesitation. We previously analysed how even within the field's pioneers, the split is stark, Hinton, calling out extinction-level risks, while Yann LeCun says those fears are overblown. What's truly remarkable is that Hinton, along with another AI pioneer, Yoshua Bengio, recently won prestigious engineering prizes for creating this technology. This is happening at the exact moment they are publicly warning that their own creation could pose an existential threat to humanity. It's a modern parallel to the scientists who won the Nobel Prize for discovering nuclear fission. Society was celebrating the breakthrough while simultaneously living in fear of its consequences. Today's twist is that a head of state has stepped into that same spotlight to press the safety case directly with the industry's most pivotal supplier. Nvidia, the company building the so-called AI factories of the future, is now caught squarely between a royal plea for safety and a political demand for speed. And as we've noted before, when one company sits at the foundation of a global transformation, every nudge, policy, market or royal reverberates across the entire stack. And for the UK, this isn't just an abstract fear. You have to wonder if the King's concern is also because the UK is at risk of becoming what some analysts call a data colony. US tech giants, including Nvidia, are pouring billions into building UK data centres. The UK provides the land and the power, but the core intellectual property and the immense profits generated from the AI stay in the US. The King's warning, then, isn't just about the future of humanity, but about the future of his own country's sovereignty in the age of AI. And as we warned earlier about dependence on a tiny set of compute gatekeepers who holds the keys to that future. Speaking of geopolitical friction, the battle is heating up in the autonomous vehicle space, and it's getting messy. Two of China's biggest self-driving car companies, Pony.ai and WeRide, just went public in Hong Kong, and it was an absolute disaster. On their very first day of trading, Pony.ai's shares plummeted over 12%, while its rival WeRide crashed nearly 13%. This happened right after the two companies raised a combined $1.1 billion in their IPOs. They raised a mountain of cash, and investors immediately ran for the exits. This isn't just a bad day on the stock market. Investors have seen this movie before in the West, and it didn't have a happy ending. Developing fully autonomous vehicles is an incredibly expensive and long-term gamble. Just look at the competition. Cruise, which was backed by General Motors, burned through over $10 billion in losses before GM had to pull the plug on its robo-taxi operations. Even Google's Waymo, a leader in the field, has raised billions and still struggles to find a clear path to profitability. So when investors see these standalone AV companies go public, they're not just buying a stock, they're funding a capital sinkhole with no guarantee of a return. The fear is real, but the market crash is only half the story. The rivalry between these two companies is boiling over in public. Just last week, WeRide's CFO, Li Xuan, went on the record accusing Pony.ai of misinforming investors. This isn't just competition. It's a public war of words between two giants trying to dominate the same space. Here's where it gets interesting. This kind of public infighting is poison for investor trust. The entire autonomous vehicle sector is built on promises of the future. When a company's leadership publicly accuses its main rival of lying, it makes investors question the credibility of the entire industry. It's a form of corporate information warfare that suggests the pressure to succeed is so intense that companies might be bending the truth, and that makes everyone nervous. So the question is, what's driving all this? It all ties back to a massive roadblock in the United States. Both companies wanted to partner with Uber and deploy their robotaxis in California, but their American dream is facing a major headwind. The US government finalized a rule effectively banning Chinese technology in connected vehicles. This isn't just about trade. The US government has cited serious national security risks. The concern is that vehicles connected to the internet and containing Chinese components could be used to collect massive amounts of sensitive data on American citizens and infrastructure. There are even fears about the potential for remote control or shutdown of vehicles, which is a risk Washington is unwilling to take. This is why they're running to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. An analyst called the dual listing a move for risk mitigation, an admission that the US market may be closing its doors. This move signals something much bigger than just one market, a massive decoupling of the global tech industry. We're seeing the creation of two separate spheres of influence, one aligned with the West and one with China, each with its own technology standards, data rules, and market access. This fractures the dream of a single global standard for autonomous vehicles. And here's the killer insight from one equity analyst. The Hong Kong listing will do nothing to advance the progress of their technology stack and regulatory approvals in Western markets. He even said that gaining approval in the West may now be even more challenging. What really brought this to a head, though, is that even though the door to the West is closing, these companies are not giving up. They're engaging in what some are calling regulatory arbitrage. Instead of fighting a losing battle in the US, they are pivoting to regions like the Middle East and Singapore, where governments are rolling out the red carpet. For example, Pony.ai is already partnering with Dubai to get robotaxis on the road, and WeRide has launched a driverless minibus in Singapore. They're looking for new battlegrounds where the rules are more favourable. So while they've secured over $1 billion, these two rivals are now fighting each other, fighting bigger competitors like Waymo and Baidu, and fighting a regulatory wall blocking them from the West. Their big IPO was meant to be a launchpad for global expansion, but it's starting to look more like a collision course. While some tech companies are burning billions to break into new markets, others are finding more creative ways to get paid. Take Snap, for instance. It just got paid $400 million to put someone else's AI chatbot inside Snapchat. The company just announced a blockbuster partnership with the startup Perplexity AI, which will integrate its conversational search directly into the app. For that prime real estate, Perplexity is paying Snap $400 million over 1 year. Snap CEO Evan Spiegel confirmed Perplexity will get default placement in the chat inbox and will control the responses from their chatbot inside of Snapchat. Effectively, Snap is positioning itself as an AI app store. Instead of spending billions to build its own AI from the ground up like Meta or Google, Snap is choosing to be the landlord, renting out its massive user base to the hottest AI companies. This is a huge pivot. They are betting they can become a primary distribution channel for AI, getting paid to give other companies access to you. Now, this decision brings a huge financial upside, but it also comes with inherent risks. By giving a third-party Perplexity control over the chatbot's responses, Snap is taking a big gamble. It creates a potential user experience problem. Snapchat will now have two AIs side by side, its own My AI and Perplexity. Users might get confused by their different functions and personalities. More importantly, it raises questions about brand safety. How does Snap ensure the content from Perplexity's AI aligns with Snapchat's community guidelines? It's a major challenge when you don't control the final output. The market loved the news. Snap stock surged 15%, climbing as high as 25% in after-hours trading. The company also beat revenue expectations, posting $1.51 billion and announced a $500 million stock repurchase program. On the surface, it's a massive win. But you need to look at the numbers behind the numbers. While revenue per user in North America is up, Snap's daily active user count in that key market has been flat at 100 million. This deal is a strategic move to find significant non-advertising revenue because their user growth, the lifeblood of any social media company, has stalled in its most profitable region. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. At the exact same time Snap was celebrating this deal, it was also delivering a stark warning to investors. The company stated that its overall daily active users may actually decline in the next quarter. So why the potential decline? Snap is facing major regulatory headwinds. New government rules like Australia's bill to ban social media for users under 16 are expected to have negative impacts. This is a very real threat. To give you some perspective, Snap has an estimated 440,000 underage users in Australia alone who could be removed from the platform. And it's not just one country. Snap also pointed to the upcoming rollout of platform-level age verification from Apple and Google as a factor that could hurt user metrics. This sets up a massive power struggle. Snap is making a huge bet on becoming a distribution platform for leading AI companies, cashing in on the AI gold rush. But this high-stakes pivot is happening just as new laws and policies around the globe are beginning to threaten the very user engagement that makes its platform valuable in the first place. We were just talking about the regulatory headwinds facing social media. Well, an incident in the UK just provided a perfect and frankly alarming example of why regulators are so concerned. An AI chatbot just accused a sitting government official of being a rape enabler. The chatbot is Grok, which runs on Elon Musk's platform, X. When a user asked it if it would be fair to call UK Member of Parliament Pete Wishart a rape enabler, the AI's response began with the words, "Yes, it would be fair to call Pete Wishart a rape enabler." It then claimed he backed a decision not to have a specific inquiry into grooming gangs to shield political interests. What sets Grok apart is how it's built. While models like OpenAI's GPT-4 are trained on vast but curated static datasets, Grok is uniquely trained on the real-time, unfiltered and often chaotic data from X itself. This live data approach means it can be more up to date, but it also means it directly reflects the wild, unmoderated nature of social media, making it far more prone to errors and absorbing toxic language. In fact, benchmark tests show Grok has a hallucination rate of 4.8%, which is significantly higher than GPT-4's 1.8%. This is a bombshell allegation. Wishart, the MP at the centre of this, called the statement deeply distressing, appalling and defamatory, and beyond anything I've ever encountered in normal political discourse. He says he's received abusive messages as a result and is now seeking legal advice, demanding that Musk shut the bot down, but that legal path is a minefield. Actually, when an AI generates defamatory content, the question of who is legally responsible is almost completely untested. Is it the user who prompted it? The AI company, in this case XAI, or the platform owner, Elon Musk. In the US, platforms are largely shielded by Section 230 for user-generated content, but it's unclear if that applies to AI-generated content. A recent US case, Walters versus OpenAI, I saw the court side with the AI company, pointing to their disclaimers about potential inaccuracies and a lack of proven malice. This case sets a very high bar for anyone trying to sue an AI company for defamation. Now, if that was just the appetizer, the main course is that this probably wasn't a random error. At its launch, Elon Musk himself said Grok was designed to answer spicy questions that are rejected by most other AI systems. In other words, this isn't a bug, it's a feature. This edginess is a deliberate business strategy. The idea is to capture a market segment that feels alienated by the safety filters and what they see as the woke guardrails of competitors like Google and OpenAI. Grok is being positioned as the rebellious, anti-establishment alternative. So when it produces a controversial answer, it's operating exactly as designed. The bot was prompted by a user who specifically asked it to answer yes or no to the defamatory label. This is a tactic known in the AI world as weaponized prompting or jailbreaking. Malicious actors are constantly developing and sharing these specific leading prompts online to bypass an AI's built-in safety measures. They are essentially finding the cracks in the armor to force the AI to generate harmful or restricted content. Because Grok was intentionally designed to be edgy with fewer restrictions, it's uniquely vulnerable to these kinds of targeted attacks compared to more lockdown models. And now, get this. Experts say I didn't invent the claim out of thin air. It looks at its training data, which includes posts made on X, and then predicts which words should come next. The I was essentially mirroring language it found within its own ecosystem. This incident highlights the core conflict brewing between unregulated AI and public figures. A chatbot, intentionally designed to be provocative, has now been used to generate a serious, baseless accusation against a politician, leading to real-world consequences and calls for urgent regulation. This high-profile incident is now poised to become a major test case that accelerates AI regulation, particularly in the UK. The UK government has been trying to find a middle path, different from the EU's very strict AI Act and the US's more hands-off approach. An incident like this, involving a sitting member of parliament, provides exactly the kind of political pressure needed to force government action and define the future rules for this technology. The system is doing exactly what it was built to do.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.